So box office
Yes.
top 10 at number 20. Oh, actually, before we get to the box office top 10, just this on the Michael J. Fox movie, which you were talking about
loved
last
it.
week, and you said that I would like it, and you were absolutely right.
You saw it, yes?
Yes.
Isn't he great?
He is absolutely great. This is... the name has come off the bottom here.
Okay.
Can you just tell me who this is from, please? The Michael J. Fox, Dear Doc and Martin. Oh, I've got it. It's at the top. My apologies. You told me I'd like it, and you're absolutely right. I did. It's from Alan
Wonderful.
Potter, MTL, second-time emailer, NVQ Level 5, and winner of a copy of The Secret of My Success on VHS. As someone who is Back to the Future in their top 10 movies of all time, and a person who at 17 years old, his Friday evenings consisted of episodes of Spin City followed by Caroline in the City on Channel 4, there was no way I was going to miss out on an opportunity to see this documentary. And not being a consumer of fruit-based products or entertainment, I took a trip down to the Duke of York Picture House in Brighton for my one opportunity to see this film. From the opening moments of Michael on his now daily exercise regime, taking a walk, showing him falling over, a female member of the public going to help him, he gets up and tells her she knocked him off his feet.
Genius.
I was smiling. You can tell he is as charming as ever, able to disarm the most awkward of circumstances with a joke and not afraid to make it at his own expense. Still is an incredibly earnest, open, no-holds-barred account of Michael J. Fox's life and career. The whirlwind success story going from sucking on jam packets because you can't afford food to owning 4 cars, having the 2 top movies at the box office, and your face on every magazine. It's vividly told through smartly edited clips of movies, TV shows and interviews with dramatic performance reenactments used when no clips were available. I think they did that better than any other
Yeah, the
film
use of
that I've
clips
seen.
and dramatization in that film is absolutely on the money, A star.
This was also intercut with his everyday life now, daily physio sessions, talking head interviews, where you can hear he's even entertaining the crew and making them laugh.
Yeah.
I know
You can hear the crew
Yes,
laughing
which is
off
great.
camera, which is really
I know
funny.
he wouldn't want this, but I couldn't help feel sad for the great talent that he was and what he has become. At the same time, as I was just in awe of his remarkable resolve and determination that this debilitating disease would not define him. I think I would have liked a bit more of the family's point of view in this, especially more from Tracy, who's his other half, who gains my utmost respect for really giving a meaning to the words "in sickness or in health till death us do part." This is Michael in his own words at his most vulnerable and yet most determined. You can tell this is a story he wanted to get out. While he could, he says himself, in 20 years' time, I'll either be cured or I'll be a pickle. An incredibly moving story. I laughed, I cried, I was entertained and informed. What more do you want from a documentary? Up with stem cell research and down with degenerative disease.
I mean,
Thank you, Alan Potter.
The only comment I have on that is I think that he still is a great talent. And I think one of the things that I loved about the documentary is how funny his comic timing is. I mean, the thing about Parkinson's is obviously it throws your timing completely off. And yet somehow his comic timing is like ABBA's songwriting. It's indestructible. There is just something about his. I mean, he tells that beautifully when he's got the side of his face is bashed, and it's because he fell over and bashed himself on the bedstead. And she says, "What, you fell over?" He said, "Yeah, this is the rule. I fall over. You know, gravity is real, even when you only fall from my height."
Yeah.
It's perfect. And he perfectly delivers that line when the interviewer says, "How's Tracy?" and he says, "Married to me, still."
Of course, is the name also.
Exactly. And it's just, I think he still is a comic genius as he always was. And it's so empowering and uplifting. And I'm starting to well up even thinking about it.
So if you get a chance to see it, you've missed it in the cinema, I suspect. But if you've got Apple TV Plus, watch it. If you've got a friend who's got it, then it's definitely worth it. Number 28, Brainwashed, Sex, Camera, Power. Now, there's an incredible epistle here from Bernie Harper, PhD, photographer and vision scientist.
Okay, wow.
I will just read some of it.
Okay.
Because as you can see, it's like a thesis.
Yes, it is.
All right.
That's single space as well.
Yeah, and all this is, so I'll just do a bit. Dear esteemed doctors, the academic rigor of Nina Menke's Brainwashed Sex, which is Brainwashed : Sex Camera Power, is a devastating deconstruction of the male gaze in cinema. It quite correctly shows movies to be an institutionally formulaic subjunction of women. I beg your pardon, subjugation of women. Her remarkable and disturbing examples of actress and audience manipulation barely scrape the surface of Hollywood's industrialized levels of abuse. But she often struggles to explain why female directors and cinematographers also recycle the same male visual narratives. Even her perfect example from Mandingo fails its own test. The enslaved Ken Norton is indeed photographed in exactly the same way women have been objectified and abused for decades on film. But when his slave master and sexual predator Susan George is portrayed in the same scene, she is lit with beauty lighting typical of a classic Hollywood movie. The graphic 3D lighting always used for the male protagonist's gaze is meticulously avoided, and there are good reasons. Then we take a slight left turn. It's over 20 years since Terry Wogan, not someone I think you imagined to have come up in this.
No, I hadn't thought that's where it was going.
Ribbed my PhD research into the flattening and fattening effects of photography. He correctly reported my findings that the camera can easily add 10 pounds, 4.5 kilos, in body weight. He then reassured his audience that in reality he looked like Errol Flynn. Michael Parkinson warmed to this comedic theme too, and said that, quote, on screen I chunk up like John Wayne, but in real life I look like Callista Flockhart. However, that 10-pound excess weight was a group average. In reality, men often survive the camera's scrutiny relatively unscathed. It is women that are far more likely to photograph as significantly overweight, older and less attractive. As you all know from personal experience, celebrities almost never look like they do on the screen. Usually they are smaller, slimmer, and often younger looking. Well, I'm not. So this final point here from Bernie. And clearly that was his research, that whole thing about television putting on. So what is going on here? The process cameras use to squeeze the infinite depths of 3D reality into a two-dimensional image on film is flawed. It is a compression process that throws away vast amounts of the vital information we need to understand our visual reality. All that is left is a two-dimensional linear perspective with just enough resolution, brightness, and color information for us to approximate the original scene. Actors, of course, are not models, but they often feel compelled to slim excessively, and many actresses lose so much weight they risk their health and even infertility simply to look good on camera. Anyway, so that's just like a flavour. He says, P.S. Sorry about the epic length of the missive, but this is the short version, of which I have shortened it even more. But anyway.
Well, here's an interesting thing on the subject of Nina Menkes. So there's a Nina Menkes season at the BFI at the moment, Celluloid Sorceress. I was at BFI on Monday and I did an interview with her on stage. I asked her to pick a guilty pleasure movie. She picked The Exorcist, and she picked it because she thinks it's a feminist classic. And she spoke really, really eloquently, and clearly this is music to my soul, about how the central relationship in The Exorcist, which is to do with Reagan and Chris McNeil, and the absence of the father who has abandoned the family, Howard, Captain Howdy, is really what the film is about. And she talked about watching it as a young age in which there was some biographical crossover with her own life. And she said she thinks it's a very, very feminist. And it was really lovely to hear somebody. She wasn't talking about it as a horror film. She wasn't talking about it as a thing. And she argued. So we bonded very, very strongly over the fact that she's just done this documentary and she thinks The Exorcist is a feminist classic. And who am I to disagree?
We're going to zip through these numbers to get to the number one.
Okay.
Number 26 is Plan 75.
Which is a really moving and fascinating film about planned euthanasia that has one foot in science fiction, but another foot in present-day reality.
Number 12, The Eight Mountains.
Significant most of all because it has introduced me to the sublime work of Daniel Norgren, a Swedish singer-songwriter who has become my new favourite thing. There's an album, Alabersi, which many of the songs come from that. And I've been trying to turn you on to Daniel Norgren. It's wonderful songs.
UK at number 10, 9 in America is Air.
All About the Shoe.
Number 9, Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves.
So much more fun than we had any right to expect.
John Wick Chapter 4 is number 8 this week.
He's up the stairs, he's down the stairs, he's up the stairs again.
UK number 7, The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry.
Enjoyed it very much, Life of Brian.
UK's number 6 is 2018.
Which wasn't press screen, so I haven't seen it.
Number 5 here and number 5 in the States, Evil Dead Rise.
Was away, haven't caught it up. Sorry, sir, dog ate my homework.
You did say last week.
I know, but a lot of things happened.
But you keep saying you're going to see it, and you never see it.
I am going to see it.
Well, you're probably not.
No, I am. I want to see it.
I don't think you will. ever. Number 4 here, number 3 in America, Book Club, The Next Chapter.
Well, I'm sure they all had a nice holiday. Venice does not look like that in real life. It's crammed with tourists.
Number 3 here, number 8 in the States, Love Again.
Now, I didn't get invited to a screening of this, but as we came out of Beau is Afraid, James King was going to a screening of it.
He's the man.
So I feel like that's it. The mantle has not just been passed, but I have been passed over.
Number 2 here, and in America, the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Well, I think you were right. The Super Mario Brothers movie.
Number 1 here and number 1 in the States, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. This
very dark and actually all the better for it.
This is just signed by the letter P. So whoever you are, P, thank you for this.
Okay.
To break up a soggy bank holiday weekend, my wife arranged for a family viewing of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 in our local restaurant, Everyman Cinema. Like my wife and I, my 2 girls, aged 14 and 12, have been Marvel fans for some time, although it's been a while since we felt a Marvel film was special enough to warrant a cinema visit, and apparently talk in the playground is that Marvel's cool rating is quickly slipping. I came to the screening with fond memories of the first installment, which, like many of the early Marvel movies, was full of wit and well-developed characters. I was also a fan of James Gunn's other work, including Suicide Squad, so was bitterly disappointed to find 5 minutes into Volume 3, I was already bored and frustrated. The writing had switched from witty to corny, the acting consisted mainly of shouting, and the music, used so brilliantly throughout the first installment, seemed forced and ever present. My wife and kids enjoyed it more than I did, but still recognised that it was all over the place. Over the years, I've been a staunch defender of Marvel, especially in the face of some of my more highbrow friends who've dismissed it as superficial trash and an existential threat to art house cinema, which I also love. So, just to check that I hadn't been wrong all along, I rewatched Avengers Endgame and the first Iron Man, and how right I was. For me, these 2 films are the high bar of Marvel, telling relatable human stories in the guise of superhuman players. The scripts are tight, editing is well-paced, and the actors, by and large, play the roles straight. They are still mistakenly comic creations, but are created for an appreciative adult audience, not children. Volume 3, by contrast, felt insincere, over-egged, and simply lacked the heart that these characters have conveyed when on screen in the past. Whilst I'm sure I will continue to enjoy early Marvels, I am beginning to think their time has run its course. Perhaps, as with the James Bond franchise, when in reaction to the pastiche films of the 80s and 90s, we got a more grown-up reboot, Marvel need the same. Hello to Jason and so on.
I mean, I'm surprised because I think that no mention there of the rocket story, which is I think that the film, the bulk of the film, is the rocket backstory, the animal experimentation, the vivisection, the Richard Adams stuff, which I found very, very moving. The stuff I'm less interested in is the smashy bashy crashy stuff. But I thought this was. And actually, funnily enough, it was as we were coming out of that screening, we walked past James King. He was off to see a movie that they weren't going to show to me. And he said, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to go see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And he went, oh, it's really dark. And he was right.
Louis Leterrier is on the way. Thanks very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as we enjoyed making it. While you're here, check out all the other videos because they're cool too, aren't they?
Yeah, and if you want to keep up to date with everything Kermode and Mayo's take, then check out our social channels.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
I mean, I would. I have done.
Excellent.